Hello and welcome to the Wrestling Headlines NXT review. My name is Matt Maher, aka Imp, and we are live here on Wrestling Headlines YouTube and are also available in podcast form later. Links in the description, or head over to wrestlingheadlines.net for all the latest wrestling news. And tonight is a massive night that I'm really excited for. As I'm going live, the kind of Twitter world is buzzing, or at least my Twitter world, the wrestling Twitter world that I specifically follow, buzzing for Blood and Guts from AEW, the other company, the other one. They're live in about 55 minutes. I'm still toying about with lights, trying about the best stuff. So 5 minutes late, apologies. However, most people listen to this live in the podcast version anyway. So I've been pushing the YouTube version, it. Doesn't mean loads are going to the YouTube version, but I'm putting effort into it. I've got the lights now. If you're listening to the YouTube version, I've got pretty lights. Ring out the warts. No. Anyway, I am live here to talk about NXT, which aired last night and had an amazing opener and a fantastic ending. I thought the Leon Ruff and Swerve absolutely brought it. I get to that after this match, actually. But I thought the main event for the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships, Ember Moon and Shotzi Blackheart versus Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell, I thought it was amazing. Especially after the day before, I'm watching Monday Night Raw and I see their Women's Tag Team Championship in a nothing title match that meant nothing but got the champions on TV. That was the only reason for existing, about 2-3 minutes, a absolutely nothing match where the challengers got a championship match by losing to the champions in the previous match. It was like, well, why are they challenging again? So it was... But then to go from that to this, my God. Again, what a repeat for SmackDown. They're the same bleeding company. And I know NXT has been like a massively leaps ahead of the main roster before, but just watching the two, Jesus. Jesus wept. Oh, what is that from? And Jesus wept. That's a reference to something, but I can't remember what. This was an absolutely fantastic main event, and the perfect way to then send you in to Blood and Guts tonight. As a wrestling fan, if the hype train keeps rolling, I just get more and more excited. And I started off this week with Ospreay versus Shingo Takagi in New Japan. An awful Raw. Absolutely. To say that those two things aired on the same day. An absolutely awful, continued awful Raw. And then a solid NXT bookended with two amazing matches. And for me, that's what really elevates this off of last week. I apologise to James Boyd from One Nation Radio joined me last week. Last week, I had him come on for a nothing building block show. This week, two killer matches, the opening and the closing match. So let's talk about this one. Moon and Blackheart defending their championships against LeRae and Hartwell. I guess some of the stories going into this. Indy and LeRae were getting ready earlier in the show in their locker room, just continuing the thing of Candice LeRae, just hiding the fact that Loomis really does care for Indy Hartwell. She's fawning over the boy, but LeRae doesn't want anything to do with that. Maybe selfishly in terms of being able to either control her or in terms of getting championships. She needs Hartwell on her side for the championship match. So she continues to hide the Loomis scatterings around the locker room. The scatterings of love phrasing. So they're continuing to build that eventual blow up. But for now, LeRae's tactics are working to the point that they've become champions. It was NXT, so I do trust they're going somewhere with it, and eventually Hartwell's going to find out what LeRae's been doing, and that will break her heart more than anything anyone else ever could. But as for now, we have new NXT Tag Team Champions. Great stuff. For me, a really strong kind of next step for that little art they're doing. But in the match itself, Shotzi Kruger and Ember Voorhees taking the fight fast to the challengers after their cupcake attack last week. No fightsy lights down announcement. They tried. I like that when the lights went down, and that's when Shotzi and Ember attacked. A nice little touch. Immediately into ringside a kerfuffling with tables, chairs, fire extinguishers, and all. And out of the four of them, for me, this really felt like Hartwell's biggest breakout. That Shotzi continued to be crazy, crashing to the outside and ascent on through LeRae on a ladder. That was a mental bump to watch. It got more mental. Ember, with that always awesome aggression and the athleticism, actually drove her ass through a table after flying around with drop kicks moments before. Not forgetting the linchpin in LeRae. just tying everything together. She herself got an awesome spot with her own line sold onto a ladder that was held up by Indy. That looked great. And Crazy Shotzi elevating her offense by, as I said, the ladder spot earlier wasn't the crazy one. Elevating her offense by climbing the scaffold beam to splash on down through the announce desk, which Indy was on top of. And you thought, oh, Hartwell's out then. She's taken out. But as Shotzi stepped in later to stop LeRae crashing Ember out on a table on the outside, Hartwell then ran in and hit an amazing step up kind of into a springboard off the top rope and crashed through the moon and table herself. LeRae then caught the distracted green-haired warrior with the brass knuckles before stomping her face onto a chair. Great main event, awesome hectic fun. They were just like my favourite spots of it, seemingly were the major big spots of the kind of structure of the match, so that's a good sign. And just for me, like the little notes as well, because there's been something about the Moon and Blackheart team where they've been way stronger than I predicted them to be. They felt in a way, when they first formed, it was like, oh, this is going to be temporary, you're going to build to maybe a slightly more heel Ember Moon, even though she can still be a main character because it's NXT, I trust them to do that. And then you can kind of have her and Shotzi feud, but the way the team's gone on, it doesn't feel like there's any need to do any of that. And this is not the main roster. You don't have to split them up for reasons. They could go separate ways for a bit, but feels like they've still got legitimate beef with the title winners. And if you kind of book your stuff with purpose, I don't mind rematches as much. As in, this does not scream it's being made up week to week. So I don't mind as much. Like, oh no, you're half decently telling me a story. I'm not going to get as nitty gritty into, oh, we're doing repeat matches. It's like, I mean, if he doesn't feel tired, it doesn't feel tired. But this was an amazing main event, and the women absolutely killed it. It's one of Sing that phases once again. And just, again, the night and day between the Monday Night Raw offering and this one. And it's just like, oh, it was so good. And the fact it was a street fight as well, just let the women go out there and just balls the walls, crazy spots. Yeah, an amazing main event. 100% check this out. If you've got any energy left after Blood and Guts, that's airing after I do this review. I'm still not undecided whether I'm going to watch it live. I don't know. I've got a karma tomorrow, so maybe it's never wise. It's never wise to stay up during the week, do a thing. But yeah, an amazing main event, and I can't really, like, nothing on next week kind of has me as excited as this week, as this match kind of, whilst I was watching it. I was like, sometimes I'll be thinking, oh, there's awesome matches next week. They've got this title match, that title match. I was just thinking, this street fight is by far, like, right now the most exciting thing in NXT. So kudos to them. And a breakout moment for Indy Hartwell as well, having a performance like that. Breakout moment. Yeah, but again, the fact that this one, it had the vets in Moon and LeRae, but it really shone a light on Shotzi and Indy Hartwell. So massive applause for this match. It just absolutely succeeded in every department. Well done. Well done. And now I'm looking forward to what's going to happen with the new champions. Yes, there is the criticism of these women's tag belts have already changed hands twice. We're on our third champions already. And it's really not existed that long. Like 2 months, and we've had 3 champions in that time. That said, it's weird. It doesn't feel like it does on the main roster. Because yes, you've changed hands a lot. It'd be nice to get a longer reign. And this, again, this title reign feels like it feeds into the current Loomis storyline with Hartwell and LeRae having that kind of clash moment being built to. But maybe they might still end up being the longest champion so far. It's not a massive kind of leap they're going to beat there. Yeah, but that means that there is a story reason for them to get beaten, rather than just like hot potatoing stuff about for no apparent reason. So no. Like, a storyline reason they won it can be a storyline reason they lost it, as long as it all flows together, which it currently seems to be. So round of applause. They're somehow making me care in the Hartwell Loomis stuff, but it's the way that it entangles with the way. In other women's tag titles, I mean, like, I'm going to sneeze. But no, not. Worst case scenario. It's gone away. Now I could sneeze at any moment with no setup. Oh, you've been warned. But yes, for the rest of the show, the yellow brand continues to build. I wasn't massively enthralled with the middle portion of this show. There's stuff within there that I love and I really, really rate. But there's a lot of stuff which is fine. It's fine. It's building block stuff I can't really get much into, but it's not negatives either. It just means the overall turn of the show isn't blowing you away from end to finish. It was bookended with amazingness. So that means I've had my sip of Game of Thrones tea. Do I need a new, more up-to-date mug? But the show started with a goddamn fantastic opener. So just after I'm singing the plaudits of the main event match, the opening match was just as fantastic. Falls count anywhere, Leon Ruff versus Isaiah Swerve Scott, a feud that has brought the aggression, ruthless aggression, like almost since they've really started doing this feud together. As the animosity is built, it's just every time they've been together, you just feel it, and they said it really well. And it's like this feud has really, really helped both of these characters, because Leon Ruff was pretty much a joke in the Johnny Gargano storyline. Here, he's been given so much character muscle to flex off of this, and I saw some complaints on Twitter like, oh, they're having the babyface guy do heel stuff. It's like, well, for me, he's showing the necessary aggression to prove that he's not like this weak loser character who somehow fights afterwards and wins. Like, no, he's willing to go to that aggressive manner. He uses his like wrestling evil acumen. Like, he's there for a reason. He's got something about him. There's a reason that he is there in NXT, and he can bring that aggression. So, yeah, good stuff. Good stuff for me. I really enjoyed this match. Ruff launched himself in full emotion, and Swerve read it all. He just read all of it in the first half of this match. And I really like that story, just going into break of Ruff trying again and again to just launch at him, and Swerve was just, with brutal counters, I'll just say as well, just like again and again. Like I've worded it as a Jesus off his shoulders onto the ring apron, followed by a Jesus into the barricade. A unique ad break cut as Swerve launched a toolbox, only just missing the lad, who was then pulling a cartoon, oh my god, just like, oh my god, thanks as his like whole life flashes before his eyes in the form of a red toolbox. But after the break, we got to see a bit more Tough Ruff as he fought back and got into the match. Like, hell, like the first big spot after they came back was Leon reversing into a crucifix off the top. That's a scary bump for Swerve to take on his shoulders. At the second, a reverse Rana off the apron, like bloody hell, that's Jesus. The toolbox then came back to haunt Swerve as Ruff swung it at the man's knee. Great to see the little baby face that could reverting to something more vicious. Again, I personally like greying it a little bit. It's not so cookie cutter. Whereas, like, no, he hates the guy so much, he's willing to go to that slightly darker place. I was like, yeah, like, sell me on the violence. I'm fine with that. It's great stuff. It's only because, like, WWE conditioned us off this is what a bad guy does, this is what a good guy does. Meaning, it's so difficult to muddy the waters well, because it just feels like you've not got any faces, really. But NXT, again, so separate from the main roster, it's not the same issues. They can do this. But yeah, almost as if in spite of his size, there's a reason his fight got him to NXT in kayfabe. It's like, we've seen it, he's willing to go that far. Cutter City from Ruff in the end as he climbs to greater heights in succession, ending with him flying off the camera balcony right onto Faux Latter's arms. Sorry, AJ Francis. I wrote Faux Latter, I was like, I know his name. But I'll always be calling him Faux Latter, purely because in the VTRs beforehand, they have had AJ Francis in the background as a really nice little subtle teaser where he was wearing the jacket that he wore out tonight. But he was part of the blurred background. It's like, oh, so he's kind of part of... He's human, but he's not practically set dressing. No, that was telling you he's got a crew. And they turned up tonight. But, because he was, like, mixing music or something behind him, it's like, no, it's Faux Latter. Faux Latter. Anyway, Swerve, with a little help from his friends, steals the win with a JML after Ruff's fire had him out on his feet earlier, but AJ Francis with the save. So, do I call him AJ Faux Latter? I think I'll go with that. The big muscle man. Yeah, coming to save his friend. Yeah, a fantastic main event, and I liked how... Sometimes I don't always like your ending involving like a slightly screwy finish. But for me, that's fine because of what they did last week. And I was like, oh, I like that. And I don't know if everyone would have definitely picked up on it. It's just because me taking the piss out of Francis last week, being in the background calling for a letter, that means there's a memory of, I know he was there. And then when I see that this week, it's like, oh, yeah, awesome. Yeah. You told me they were part of it. You visually told me he had friends and a crew. Now you, like, more blatantly told me it. But I had already been told it. I just kind of just dismissed it as set dressing. but it wasn't. It was important, and I like that. After that, we got Asher Hale versus Cameron Grimes. That was our next matchup. Big Money Grimes, the country boy out of water, with a wee little showcase. Do I have to stop that accent? With a wee little showcase of a match. Like Hale with a fair bit of offense, ruining the business. But in the end, he fell to the cave-in. Again, it was pretty much a job match, just showcasing Grimes. And for me, it's like a nice little reminder that NXT really has been showing off their like old identity this year. Like this match, where it's just a little character performance for Grimes against a jobber. He wins. You weren't really getting these matches last year, or at least in the second half of it especially. Seemingly like they thought every segment had to have maximum effort and really sing and be this massive thing. And even though they weren't in competition, that's what the show felt like to me. And I mean, that's me doing the phrase of they weren't in competition. But how come the show felt like that then? All of the segments have to be this massive delivering thing. Now you got this. All the better for it, for me. Like, long term, these are the kind of things that really do help make you care. Like these little character showcases of sorts. Also, we then went to Cameron Grimes later. And it was the segment right before the main event. Grimes went out to the club. Yes, WWE lives in this weird world where the pandemic doesn't exist. There are so many segments just pretending the world's that normal. Claiming he's rented out the VIP room at this club, but he's told by the bouncer, like the bouncer went at him, and he's told, well, the whole building's been rented out for the evening by somebody else. It's damn you, Teddy DiBiase. I love this whole thing. And him telling him, like, you don't just rent a booth when you can buy the whole place. It's just, yes. I love it. I love everything about this. And the fact it's not a one-off thing either. That was my worry, that they did the cameo and that was it. It's like, oh no, like, Ted DiBiase, he's back again. he's going to be a running gag. Like, yeah. If they do this every single week, they're in the territory of WWEing a joke. That said, 2 weeks in, love it. I'm enjoying it. Yeah, Cameron Grimes, Ted DiBiase. I love it. Talking about lovely things. Grizzled Young Veterans, as an Englishman, how can I not love that team? Versus Ciampa and Thatcher. And it just to prove how great Gibson is, just the line of, no one needs to see your dirty webbed toes, so put your Crocs back on. I was just like, I don't know which part is the bigger insult in that one. Like, oh, Gibson's so great. The English lads, though, were in for a beating against the hard-hitting fellas of Ciampa and Thatcher, who were cheekily utilising Barrett's shoe to clobber Gibson and lock him down into a submission victory in the end. But yeah, it was Grizzled Young Veterans seemingly trying to fend off that beating, and eventually it came via a little bit of cheeky shoe play. But yeah, Ciampa and Thatcher scoring the win on top of them. So I would say that sometimes that having Thatcher and Ciampa win right here, it's like, well, where's the intrigue in this feud now? But I guess the intrigue is when Grizzled Young Veterans have been kind of embarrassed a little bit and they then re-step up. That's my thinking. As in, this wasn't a number one contender. It's not immediately going to Ciampa Thatcher, especially as we've got Legado del Fantasma challenging MSK, so they're busy there. But yeah, we get to see this kind of building in the background, and now we get to see Grizzled Young Veterans. What's their retaliation to being embarrassed like that? Obviously, it wasn't super clean, given there was the shoe on the babyfaces. Solid, like two damn solid teams, and I feel like I automatically just love and enjoy any segment with the Grizzled Young Veterans in. I think the world of them. I still do. After all these years, I still do. NXT champion Karrion Kross was then out. The champion dapper with wisdom in his smart decor. Kyle O'Reilly stepping up with his calm demeanour. Barrett on commentary saying he's looking slick. And I'm sorry, is he? Is he looking slick? Is that what slick looks like? Times have changed. Apparently slick involves a fedora. Pete Dunne cut him off. He's a baddie that says he doesn't care about other people a lot. Then finally Finn Balor also cutting Pete Dunne off. He returned with a straightforward strike to the champion's face. So either we're getting a 4-way or number one contenders triple threat on the horizon. Both are fine with me. Security separating Kross and Balor in particular, which made me lean more to the number one contender side, unless we just started two separate feuds here. Before, the champion's opponent next week in The Way, jumped in for a surprise attack as Karrion Kross faces Austin Theory next week. It's taking both Gargano and Theory to ground the man, the North American champion lamping the NXT champion. So, oh, how lovely. They've set up like 3 things at once here. You got Kross versus Theory for next week, and maybe that's building to champion versus champion at some point. You've also got Finn Balor versus Karrion Kross. You've got Kyle O'Reilly versus Karrion Kross and Pete Dunne possibly. Kross, I feel like, is in this place where he can face a heel. Then also, you've got Dunne versus O'Reilly as well. It's like, oh, you set up so much in that little segment. Like, oh, well done. Well done to you. Good stuff. Good stuff. And talking about, again, another little solid thing as a helicopter goes over my house. I do live near an army base, so it happens every now and again. Saray versus Zayda and Maher. And all of a sudden, we've got a match between 2 new arrivals who both won their debut matches. It's like, oh, that's what a nice little circumstance. Like, one entering with a world of hype in the Japanese superstar, the other as a jobber catching everybody by surprise. Obviously, this was continuing the build of the Japanese star, but it was a pleasant little title match coming together here. It's like, oh, that's just a little circumstance you don't very often get. So that was nice. After a more competitive debut against Zoe Stark, though, this was more of a showcase of what Saray's capable of. And like beautiful suplexes, awesome drop kicks with torque. Saray winning with that devastating looking Saito. And yeah, and after the break, we got immediately into like the next little story beat as Saray was shaking Zayda's hand backstage. Storm charged in for like a heel baddie message or a beat up or something, but Zoe Stark was there to cut her off at the door. It's like, oh, smart baby faces. Like, how nice. Like, Zoe Stark was there expecting Toni Storm to come in and try and send a message because she's a heel and therefore her actions are slightly predictable. So it makes sense that if we, the audience, can predict it, so should the heroes that were meant to be kind of embracing this world via. It's like, yeah, that makes sense. Zoe Stark being there, it was like, yeah, 'cause we'd expect Toni Storm to do that, therefore so would they. Good stuff. And yeah, that's assuming immediately sets up Toni Storm versus as Zoe Stark, forgot her name for a second, but also very subtly set up Zoe Stark versus like Saray, because again she's going there assumably to have a message with Zayda and Maher. So you got that rematch, you've got Zoe Stark match, and you've got Saray who was also there. Assumably you got that going too as well. But just like 2 segments in a row, just set up so much going forward. It's just the polar opposite to a Monday. It's like, I'm just watching this going, oh, you set up that, you give me the potential of that. It feels like a good start, subtle build to then move to the next thing afterwards. It's like, oh, just, yeah, it's all solid. It's just, again, after complaining so much in 2020 and just falling out of love with the brand, really, to the point it was like I was covering 2 shows I wasn't really that invested in. Now I'm really enjoying NXT. And it's great, it's nice. I can be positive about NXT. How nice is that? And then I wake up on a Wednesday, and I enjoy an AEW Dynamite like to the moon. So it's really it's just Raw. Like Raw makes me hate wrestling. Like I don't enjoy watching. I don't enjoy Tuesday mornings like at all. But like the rest of the world it's really strong right now. Anyway, it's a great sign to see that like as we leave this kind of era and like Double or Nothing getting announced as having a full crowd at Full Sail. To which immediately I'm just like, oh, that's awesome that can happen. But also it's Florida, so did the safety really matter? But it's AEW, they've been taking it pretty serious when they've been doing stuff. But still, it's Florida. I'm not really sure what kind of message it sends. Like, should I be applauding, oh, you got to that stage, awesome. Or you ran a show regardless because you're Florida. Yeah, we'll see. Anyway, after that we got one of my favourite moments that made me laugh during the show. It wasn't meant to, but it was Walter's Imperium Zoom call meeting. They all just sat there all seriously as Walter gives out his instructions via the band meeting. I'm just gathered all here to, you know what you're doing, Wolfie? It made me laugh. We don't know really what the message is, but we'll find out. We'll find out. It's serious enough to deliver via Zoom. He couldn't like wait to travel. No. And I would call this like the lower point of the show, because after that it was kind of like, it felt like building blocks, but this really cemented it. Continued to be that kind of thing, just character showcases in a way. and setting up a match for next week, which then led into like a flurry of more matches being getting their fancy graphics. But we've got LA Knight versus Jake Atlas. Knight talking shit before immediately getting caught into an arm drag. I think I really like that about his character. He talks with all the confidence in the world, but he more survives into a win than he does via pure skill. Like Atlas out-wrestled him just like from the bell, just immediately into an arm drag. But Knight finds a way, and he's spending most of the match countering, and eventually like just ducking a spin kick into slamming Atlas's head down into the mat with the BFT. And he gets the win, but he's not convincing during the match. He feels incredibly beatable, but it doesn't happen. He just finds a way to survive or just escapes, and he keeps countering, and eventually he gets the win. And I think I like that kind of character going forward, especially as he can go into the North American Championships kind of title reign with that kind of character, I reckon. Because LA Knight for me, he doesn't scream the kind of NXT star to be a main event kind of level guy. I mean, you never know. Like everybody said that about The Miz, and he kind of reminds me about that in that he's so incredibly strong on the mic, and then being fine in the ring. But I feel like this kind of style complements him really well. See where this goes. I feel like solid you can try North American Championship, and if it really works there, you can try elevating it higher. But for me, right now, this kind of stuff, you can have a really good feud with Bronson Reed once he beats Johnny Gargano, assumably. That's what I do. Gargano's had a great reign. And maybe what we saw this week was not setting up champion versus champion, but setting up Gargano to face Cross in the future. As in, you're starting to think about taking the title off him, start setting up feuds to make that feel as organic as possible when he does lose it. Suddenly I'm realising, another great piece of, just planting the seeds to then move forward with. Yeah, good stuff. Anyway, and the last thing to talk about is, I've got two more things to talk about, actually. I've got two matches being set up, and it's not the hottest way to end a review. And because it's NXT, this is by far way shorter. And yes, I'm doing everything I can. Because again, aside from the two bookended matches on the show, pretty much just a building block show. Not that much to talk about. I reckon if I had James here, this review would be under an hour. Just so that there's not that much to talk about from the bulk of the show because it was continuing to set stuff up. But Legado del Fantasma, they come out, Santos Escobar with a we monologue for us, not a me monologue for us. Kushida's legacy, pretty much the point of it was, Kushida's legacy won't hold up like Escobar's. Wilder Mendoza with a familiar message to MSK, a similar little thing put out there. Hey, for me, that bit there was just nice for the other faction members to get some mic time. Makes them feel equally as important, or at least more important than just backing guys who happen to have a match. It's no, they got to deliver some lines too. When Kushida appears on the wall behind them, asking for Escobar to challenge him next week, and he obliges. So we have our Cruiserweight Championship set up for next week, as well as Austin Theory versus Karrion Kross, and if I might, also Raquel Gonzalez versus Mercedes Martinez, which was the next thing to be set up. As in, it's the NXT Women's Tag Team Championship main event was so solid that I'm just I'm in. And when I'm saying there's all those matches set for next week, you got 2 championship matches. I was but this women's main event was so solid that somehow I don't care as much about Gonzalez Martinez because I enjoyed this match so much. And really that's good because presumably when I get to next week's show, they'll do a decent job making me care about that one as well because they did for the women's tag here. So yeah, good stuff. But we had a final build for Gonzalez versus Martinez via a video chat, semi-mediated by Beth Phoenix. I thought it was going to be. She posed the question, but she was essentially playing the role of the WWE interviewer where they are in this segment essentially a non-character, just kicking off the vignette or video for the actual characters to do their thing. And this was Beth mediating, kind of, even more launching into them, talking to each other. A champion and challenger call between Raquel Gonzalez and Mercedes Martinez. Long story short, they both think they're great and that the other isn't. They don't have as much respect. Both are 2 people who have garnered respect, but this was them breaking down why they don't regard that as a reason to respect them. And they both had that. Both of them had solid reasons to take each other down. You can tell it's from their own point of view as well. And for me, the reason why it works is because, like, outside of this feud, both of them have garnered a lot of respect. So for each individual character to go, yeah, but you've not got respect from me though, and this is why. It's like, oh, solid stuff. Just, yeah, solid little build to what you're going to be doing next week in the championship match. And yeah, it's confirmed for next week as well as the Cruiserweight Championship, and as well as cross-destroying Theory. But so much was set up on this. So I feel like last week felt like a building block show, but I wouldn't say like so many segments set stuff up. I've got me excited for something in the future. As in, like, last week, it didn't do that great a job for getting me that excited for the main event. I was excited for Ruff versus Swerve, but that was more because of what has come before. Like, I really like Swerve's promo from last week. Turns out it foreshadows something, and that makes me like it even more. But yeah, the main event, it was like, well, you attacked them with the cupcakes and stuff. I thought that was a bit more weird, but the match itself was so good. Then over here, we've got Miguel Gonzalez versus Mercedes Martinez. And like, you've been building this up for ages on this particular show. Felt a little bit less of important just because of how well on the show itself they maybe care about the street fight main event. I'm assuming by the end of next week I'm going to be singing and raving about how into Gonzalez versus Martinez I got. But yeah, I feel like we're going to be on a string of a couple of weeks of strong NXTs. Especially as this show built up and set up so many things to then kind of look forward to for the future, near future, next week. It's like a really, really strong episode for me. It doesn't mean, like, from start to finish, it had the best, most exciting segments of wrestling from start to finish. But every single one kind of had a point, set something up, kind of got us ready for next week as well, and put things, sowed seeds as well. It's a really, really solid episode of NXT, and it's a joy to get to talk about it after another Raw that just has me not liking this wrestling thing. Obviously, I'm not a normal level of fan in terms of this, but the fact that I leave Raw hating wrestling and I've left NXT going, nope, I'm back, and what really helps as well is just like in the background whilst I'm doing this, it's like, yeah, the wrestling world is so excited for blood and guts that there's an energy about the place. Like, oh yes, and I can't wait to then leave the happy time of doing this to go into a completely different kind of getting amped up and excited. So yeah. The wrestling world, it's not just WWE. The wrestling world feels pretty strong, apart from Raw, which is awful. It continues to be awful. You're comparing it to the lowest rated generations, going, is this the worst? I don't think it is, but the fact we're doing that kind of says something. Anyway, that's the end of the NXT review. What did you make of the main event? Feel free to hit me up in the comments. I'll try and respond. And it's both on the Wrestling Headlines website and here on YouTube. Also, on Twitter, you can follow me at the Damn Implicat. That's damn as in damn. Also, on Twitch, I'm just trying to stream as regularly as possible. That is the Implications with an S. I made affiliate. Awesome. Thank you so much to everybody who has followed in that. Anyway, NXT was great. On to Blood and Guts. Can't wait. As I'm speaking, it's about 20 minutes away, so I'm gonna go. He's gonna go get ready. Anyway, thank you for watching, liking, subscribing, starring, reviewing if it's the podcast version, and whatever. All goes appreciated. And with that, I bid you adieu. Adios.